At this time, I would like to invite two special people to come forward, and they're going to share a little bit with us about their calling, how God has called them. Just come on up, Ken and Terry. And this is Wireless 3 if people need, and we got a thumbs up. All right, and let's see if I turn it on. Hello. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So this is Terry White. Terry White is joining us. Webb, I'm so sorry. Can you come this, since we're going to talk to you first? Terry Webb, yes. So Terry's experience has shaped her calling, as so much good has come from it. Terry is an author and a journalist and a missionary and a whole lot more. If you read her website, you can see all the titles that she's had over the years. But here's a fun fact about Terry. Terry has met 2 presidents. How about that? So you never know where your calling is going to lead you, right? So I've asked her to come and share how her experiences have shaped her calling.
Well, first of all, I grew up in a 6th generation clergy family, so part of my calling meant going to seminary, and that's what I did when the words of Scripture came alive for me, particularly Micah 6:8, which says, "Act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your Lord," which is kind of the basis for my calling. But when I got to seminary, what happened was God had plans for me. And I didn't know what those plans were at the time, but he opened up the door of a disease in our family, which was multi-generational, and that disease is alcoholism. And so one by one, he opened up the people in my family with the disease, and that was very painful. But I began to heal at that particular point in my life. And I started attending 12-step support groups, and eventually got trained to be able to heal others. And so that's been my mission work for the last 20-some years. I've been taking the message of hope and recovery around the world, starting in Russia back in 1991, actually, was the first time God called me to do that. It's a long story, but that's just been my calling, is to be able to be trained, to be healed, to be trained to help others.
Terry, I'm so glad that you were courageous enough to reach out to others to get healing yourself, and then not only that, to share it with others. Sometimes we want to keep that to ourselves, but you didn't do that. You shared them with others, so thank you so much. So Terry was ordained. This became her full-time calling, but most of us are not going to be called into full-time ministry, right? Most of us are not going to go to Russia. Most of us have to figure out, how is God calling us right here, here in Lancaster County? So Ken, you probably know, I'm sure, how many years have you been coming?
Oh, probably 8, 9.
Okay, 8 or 9 years, but you might not know this particular thing about Ken. So Ken, how are you using your gifts, your vocation, your heart to make a difference, right here in Lancaster County where you work?
So for those of you who don't know, I work at Kitchen Kettle Foods, and part of my responsibilities is human resources. And one of the challenges, anyone that's been out there the last 2 years through the whole COVID crisis, is finding employees, hiring, retention of employees through all the craziness that we've all lived through the last 2 years. And where we're located down in towards Paradise, Intercourse, Pennsylvania, is we always hear that we would struggle to get people, but at the same time we would always hear feedback that there are a lot of kids at Peckaway Valley High School looking for jobs, as well as that's one of the poorer school districts in Lancaster County, and there's a big challenge with generational poverty in that area of our county. So last fall, our leadership team, we reached out to an organization called the Factory Ministries. It's a faith-based organization that really their goal is to help alleviate generational poverty. And many people think, well, get someone a job and it's just that easy to fix the problem, when it really isn't. There's a lot of other hurdles that these people face to kind of get out of the situation where they are. So we made a commitment that we were going to work with the factory ministry to see what can we do to help make a difference, rather than just putting an ad in the paper and doing the traditional hiring. Let's step outside the box. Let's really try and address the problem where our business resides within the community. So last fall, we began working with them. Some great things. It's really kind of ballooned over the last several months. We worked with Peckway Valley School District because one of the challenges for the kids we were hearing was transportation. They had no way when they got out of school at 1 or 2 o'clock to get anywhere because their parents couldn't or caregivers couldn't get them to a job. So we worked with the school district. They set up they call it the shuttle bus, I guess, that will take kids from school, drop them off in downtown Intercourse so they can come to work at Kitchen Kettle Village. We've also started to bring in a lot of other businesses through this process to say, okay, now there's this great opportunity, because many of them are facing challenges with hiring right now. And then through the factory ministry, we stepped up and we're starting a program partnering with them, because as a typical business, we don't have a lot of the skill sets involved to help these people with a lot of the challenges beyond a job of what they have. And starting this spring, we're going to do some training for our folks. It's called Walking with People, so we can kind of better understand that, what we may think a flat tire is no big deal, it can just be a ripple effect for a lot of these people with the problems they face on a day-to-day basis. And then as well, what we're doing then is bringing in a advocate through the factory ministry that is trained at helping people and counseling with them.
That's
so
awesome.
again, it was just a neat idea that kind of transformed beyond just trying to look at the typical way to solution a business problem, but to really kind of help step forward to address a broader issue.
Thank you so much. Man, that is awesome. Can you guys give them applaud? It's like hard to come up here. Maybe not for Terry. She's done this a lot, but. I would like to call Terry Webb forward. She is going to tell us a little bit about how God has used the experiences and her unique gifts to make a difference. So we have a real life sermon illustration here. Oh, it's not there. I'm going to find a microphone. Here it is. All right, thanks for bearing with me. All right, so Terry joins us. Terry's experiences shaped her calling, and so much good has come from it. Terry is an author, a journalist, a missionary, and a lot more. Fun fact about Terry, she has met 2 presidents. How about that? So you never know where God's calling is going to lead you. So Terry, can you talk a little bit about your experience in your life and how they have shaped you? I'm sorry, hold on. There we go. Yeah.
Sure. Well, those 2 presidents were President Carter and President Bush. So you may want to know who the presidents were. Yes, my life experiences, I was raised in a clergy family of 6 generations of clergy. So for me, I was the oldest daughter, so I was supposed to be the perfect daughter and the one who had to greet everybody, and my sister was the one who acted out all the time, but I was the one who had to be the good one. And as I grew, I became a professional. I started an environmental education organization, and then God called me to be concerned about, during the Cold War, about the peacemaking. So we started a peace commission, and a friend of ours decided that we would go to the former Soviet Union and make friends out of enemies, because that was the time. We still have Russia as our enemy, but at that particular time, we went in 1989, I believe. And then the call kept being formed, and the verses from Micah got to me, Micah 6:8, which is act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your Lord. And that was the verse, that was the passage of Scripture that really called me into ministry, and the Bible verses. God kept speaking to me through the Bible through that period of time. And so coming from a clergy family, I thought, well, if you had a call, then you went to seminary. Now that's not necessarily the kind of call we're talking about today, but for me that was the natural progression. So I went to seminary, and it wasn't until I got to seminary that the disease of alcoholism in my family raised its ugly head. And my father was one of 9, and all his brothers had the disease, and almost every one of my family members has had the disease. So for me, I had to heal from that disease. That was the one thing that I learned when I was at seminary, besides learning scriptures and all the other things we learned at seminary. I had to heal from my family disease before I could go any further. So instead of becoming a pastor, I ended up being called to go, if you can believe this, to go to Russia to form 12-step family, a 12-step program for family members, and we spent about maybe about 10 years going back and forth to what then became Russia, helping family members all over, setting up support groups all over Russia. And that's been my journey. I've been a missionary. So I wasn't called, I was called into the mission field. And we went to different countries such as Romania and Bulgaria. Then we went into Tajikistan. And the last mission trip I took was right before COVID hit. And in the process, I founded an organization. One of the gifts that God has given me is to start groups and start new programs. So the group now is called GOAL Project, Global Outreach for Addiction Leadership. And we have a program here in Lancaster County for churches, for recovery, teaching, having groups in churches to help family members. So, and I retired from that I finally retired from the board. That took a while, but I finally retired from the board. But then God called me into a new ministry, and that was called Braver Angels, going back to my peacemaking days. Braver Angels is a national organization which helps bring back civil discourse. And we just had they just had a training yesterday in the local school for all the gifted children in the local school districts. And the service at 9:30, one of the parents was there and was so excited about what is being done. So, and what depends upon what God calls you to, you can be called all kinds of things, but it's a privilege to be called, but it's a journey. It's a spiritual journey. And as Laura said, it's not an easy journey. It's a difficult journey, but you have to go through being refined by fire. So I have some bookmarks. Is God calling you with a book? So any of you are interested.
Thank you so much. All right.